So, Corey Alston,
Yes, yes.
the Sweetgrass basket master is what I'll call you on
Yes,
that.
sir.
So, I want to talk just a little about you. I know you're a fifth generation Sweetgrass basket weaver, from Mount Pleasant, but you've got some deep roots here in the Charleston area. But let's talk just a little about the Sweetgrass basket art form itself, founded on the west coast of Africa before being brought to America in the 17th century by enslaved Africans.
Correct.
So there's some history, and it runs really deep with the Sweetgrass baskets. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, the art form was brought here, as we all know, within enslaved Africans. It wasn't deliberately brought to the area. It became working tools as those plantations used those tools to the enslaved would use those styles for different jobs that they would need: clothes bins, fanning baskets, little bowls to eat out of, and so it's a utilitarian tool that was created, and we're still keeping that designs alive.
So fifth generation, so that means there are folks ahead of you that brought it right on down to you. So talk a little bit about that, how you actually got involved in it.
Well, so those folks before us, weavers today, they're the ones that paved the way for us. They're the trailblazers. If it wasn't for them, the art wouldn't have been kept alive or even known. Or most people don't realize that the basket weaving wasn't done just in Mount Pleasant. Now Mount Pleasant is credited for keeping it alive, but you had weavers up and down the coast, following the whole area of the Gullah Geechee corridor. And within that corridor, as most people know, there's 4 states. Within those 4 states, you have people of cast net making or hammock making or raking clams or different spices, different foods. Then you have a whole dialect of people and the way they would pronunciate words, a blended language known as Gullah. And so as we're keeping this all alive, we're proud to be a part of it. I feel that it's a blessing that I was taught the art. I was taught the art at a young dating age of my girlfriend at the time. She's actually born 5th generation. I'm from Mount Pleasant all my life, but I married into the art. I married into the art in the year of 2002. Now, me being from Mount Pleasant, my father's from Mount Pleasant, so I'm strong of Gullah roots as well, but my family were not specifically basket weavers. He had many jobs of enslaved people, many trades and techniques of the enslaved, and they taught their families after them how to do certain things. Me growing up in the Snowden community, you had the Boone Hall plantation, known as one of the brick masons or brick making plantations.
Right.
And so we had gardens and different trades and techniques that was done all from that area as well. Yeah.
That's interesting. So when we fast forward to today, we see there's a lot that's going on in society itself. We with the unfortunate protests that we had, and peaceful protests, first of all, is a good thing. Folks should be able to do it, but some, not so peaceful. So I guess what I'm trying to get folks to do is have a conversation about kind of where do we go from here? How do we teach, folks that are different from us? How do they understand what we're going through? And kind of doing a little research on you. There was a quote that you had in an interview with the city paper. You said, you've realized the best way for a cultural art to thrive is for the next generation to step up. So kind of, I heard that and I thought, that could kind of speak to what we're seeing that's going on now, because we've got a younger generation of folks that are seeing, whether it's racial inequality or whatever that they're seeing, and they're thinking in terms of, what can they do to peacefully protest or to affect change. So I guess a question, for us to talk about is how you work towards the goal of racial equality, or really kind of like telling the true African American story here in Charleston.
Well, me being a weaver of the city, working in different areas, mostly I'm found in the Charleston city market, I meet tons of people with different mindsets, different ways of thinking. My personality comes out that, hey, we can ask him a question. I'm an easy guy to talk to. I also feel that within conversation is ways of giving awareness. So I would use dialogue as what I would recommend for anyone that don't understand is talk about it. It could be uncomfortable. It could be very uncomfortable for those that are not black. You know, we can speak about our issues amongst ourselves freely because we're going through it. With the protesting that has happened all over the world, I think it should continue to happen because what it has happened is brought an awareness. As weird as it may sound, the riot, it happened. We don't need any more of it, but I feel that it was good. It was a way of crying out the pain of what we've gone through for decades. We had many people that was killed by the officers in certain ways that may not be something that we didn't feel good in our heart that should have been happened that way. But we've never had a world of protests. I feel that outcry of rioting in certain areas, it brought awareness to nationalities that was like, wow, if they're that mad to tear a city up, what is the issue? What are they mad about? Let's look into what's really going on here. I don't feel we need any more of that, but I feel that we can build from that. And so moving forward, I feel like we woke up the world. The world is awoke. They understand we're in pain. We've had injustice. We've had things going on to us for decades. Is now that it's not really changed on certain form of brutal force. Now it's being recorded. So now when it's being recorded, we're holding those accountable for those wrong actions.
That's good. So then, what do you tell the young person that's they're out here, they're doing now? We've moved on to the peaceful protesting and all, and they've got, and I mean, you've got to credit them for that. But what do you tell them? What can they do, say, right here and right now? Sometimes they'll say, well, things take too long to happen. But is there something you could speak to them to say, this is what you could do right now to still have your voice heard and still doing it in that peaceful manner, in a peaceful protest?
I grew up in the Mount Pleasant area, but I was always one that hung around older folk. And so I hear a lot of people say, you got an old soul, Corey. But me hanging around those older folks, I listened to what they was talking about. I was that quiet one observing what the older generation were talking about, understanding. I would say for the young folk that don't really understand what the fight is about, they may not even understand the historical significance of what just happened. Talk about it. We have to talk about it. We have to find this conversation more and more. And without the conversation, we won't be able to build and grow. And so we have to. If there's a black, I have two daughters, and they have a ton of white friends. They need to have that conversation so that those white kids understand the pain that this black kid's family is feeling. So conversation is great. If you're not talking about it, it can't be fixed. If I tell you I'm going through something, and this is really on my heart, and you care for me, then you're going to try to go about a way to try to not be that way, or not talk that way, or if you making some kind of joking gestures, and you know that it may offend. Right. Now maybe you won't do that. Now because I told you that hurts me. So for the youth, talking about it. Grown-ups talking about it. We can learn every day from each other. We all are equal. We have different pigments, but we are one human flesh and blood.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, and you almost touched on it too, because when you said for the grown-ups, because my question was going to be, so what about the elected officials, the folks that are in position? What is their responsibility to these, to the youth that are out here and saying, hear us, hear us?
They got to listen. You got to those politicians, those people that are running our states, our cities, our country. They have to listen to what we're saying. I found it to be one of my biggest topics that I have in the city market with individuals on a one-on-one basis, because after I laugh and joke with them, I'm a run one by you, Corey. They do me like that. And they say, well, Corey, help me understand, what's the big deal about me liking my flag? What flag? What are you talking about? my flag, my Confederate flag. You know, what's the big deal of me having my flag and blacks not liking it? I go on to say, you speaking of the flag that was brought down from the Capitol building, the Confederate bars and star flag. And so we go into the conversation of them not understanding why black America dislikes the flag, don't want the flag. So I go on and talk about it. It's conversation. It's conversation. I can't change the history of Confederate Union war. That is what it is. The Confederates lost the war. The Union won. That history started from that, you know. But when the flag was taken back and used like a mascot or a rah-rah kind of thing, that's what the blacks mostly dislike. When the Klan took the flag, started torturing, burning churches, killing blacks, and then using this flag as a representative of who they are, that became a whole new reason for the flag. Dylann Roof assassinated 9 people, as we all know, Charlestonians. And what flag did he hold? He held up the flag of what he felt was needed. That is a way of you hiding behind the flag, or not usually hiding, you using the flag to say its historical significance or your heritage or your culture. If you properly use the flag that shows Confederate significance, then you'll be using the first national flag. You wouldn't use the bars and stars, because the bars and stars are only used for war, turmoil, hate. I can go on and what that flag represents in black eyes. Right. And so we don't want the flag. They just stopped the flag at NASCAR. It wasn't just because a couple black people didn't like the flag. It's because whites are now listening and understanding the pain that the blacks are going through and why that flag is important. It's talking, communicating. I'm gonna hit you with this one. And it's gonna make so much sense. And all you had to do is think about it. Okay, so we have another group that was tortured in human society that we all know of, Jews. Jews had an awful history of what they were put through as a people. And they had a flag. They had the swastika. And so if you and I were Jews and our neighbor had a swastika on their house next door, every time we come out of our house, that would burn us bad.
Sure.
That would burn us bad. If I tell you, you pinch me and it hurts, then you're going to eventually stop pinching me because I told you just hurt me. If I'm telling you that this flag hurts me, out of your human feeling, your core, you shouldn't do it because it hurts me. Now, if you go deliberately to do it because that's just what you are, then you're what we're trying to stop. You're that mindset of racism that we don't need. They speak of systematic racism. That's a system that's going against us as a people. You know, that's giving 2 people that did the same crime, one black, one white, giving that black guy more of a sentence for the same crime than you would give that white person. That's another form of racism that we have to stop as well. If we're equal people, we are equal. We're all people of God, all blood, 2 legs, 2 arms. We need to be treated equally.
So it sounds like a wraparound for this, and from the aspect of how do we move forward. It sounds like the 2 key points is communicate and educate.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Communicate, educate, and listen. Because I'm a member of a men's Bible study, and one of the men in the Bible study said, and he hit the nail on the head, is if we're the issue, we're telling you about our problem, whites need to listen to our problem instead of coming up with a reply to what we just said. Because if you're trying to come up with a reply to what I'm telling you about, then you're no longer listening. You know, because you're trying to think of something to come back in a conversation. To move forward, we have to do all 3. We have to communicate, we have to educate, and they have to listen.
Yeah, so as we wrap up here, a question for you, kind of repeat complete. When we talk about moving forward and we've got to be hopeful. So you would say, I am hopeful for, I am hopeful that.
I am hopeful for moving forward. I'm hopeful for equality. I'm hopeful for not finding black men to be inferior. You know, when I watch the news and I see the unlawful killing of these black men, I have not seen direct hands-on, me personally have not seen direct hands-on a 5'2" man yet. I've seen these choking scenarios or shooting scenarios on men that are tall, big men. To me, I'm thinking in my mind that they're in fear of him, of what he may do, of his massive strength. So now we're going to use brutal force against him while he's cuffed. I feel moving forward, we have to communicate. White America shouldn't look at black America as a threat. I shouldn't be in an elevator and she clutch her purse. That's why. I'm not a thief. You're judging. We was told for so long, don't judge that book by its cover.
Right.
I pass you on a sidewalk and you're in your car and I walked in front of your car, you lock your door because my skin is darker than yours. No, that's not cool. We realize it. We see it. We understand it. Every time it happens, we notice, but we may not acknowledge it every time. That's painful. That's something that's not moving forward by continuing to do that. This scenario that we're going through as a country, this is not a black problem. We're the results of what's being done. We're the ones that are being, what's my wording? This is being done to us. So if it's being done to us, it's nothing we can personally fix. It seems like someone else has to fix this. They have to fix themselves, love on us the way we love on them. It's not all people. It's not all nationalities. It's certain mindsets that we have to work on. In the protests, is one of the first protests I've seen to see so many whites involved. That's showing that they see that there's a problem as well. I've seen in some of the news and the radio personalities call the protests, animals or this, that, and the other.
Right.
No, they're fighting for what's right, and we've always had whites to fight for blacks throughout the whole time of America's history. And it's great to see that happening again now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess it's some of that is too, like you said earlier too, is just folks don't understand the other person. To say they're animals or whatever the case may be, they don't understand that person's position. They have no empathy for that person.
Right.
Think we're gonna get there?
Dialogue. Got to talk about it. We got to talk about it. It's going to be uncomfortable, and as we're talking, who we're talking to needs to listen. That's my whole view on this. I understand everything that's been going on, and we're in a place now that the ears are opening. We need to keep talking. We need to keep on telling, the story of this isn't right. Look at it, and if you see it, if you see something, record it. Because that's the only way we can prove that something was not done right. We got these phones now. Everyone has one.
Yeah.
And it's putting things on the forefront.
5-10 years from now, where do you see us at? Or where do you hope to see us at?
Well, I'm born in the 80s. And so 20 years before I was born, it was worse than it was.
Right.
10 years from now, it should even be better. We're moving forward. It is being progress. I'm not going to act like we're still back in the 1700s.
Right.
We are moving forward as a people, as a humankind. I only see this here being something that's going to be marking history for life, that we're going to move forward from. As far as the Pacific police brutality, I even see that the mayors are stepping in, the chiefs are stepping in. People are getting fired from those jobs and prosecuted for those actions. We're in that time that things are changing. I don't see it going back to where it was before the protests. We're moving forward.
Good. Well, thank you for your voice in it, man. We
Yeah,
need
man.
you.
Yeah, man.
Stay strong.
I appreciate you.
All right, buddy.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.